let me just tell you something, dude. Twitter is where you need to go.
Okay.
Because you can say anything there.
Okay.
Like on Facebook. On Facebook, it's people you know. Your mom's reading your stuff. Yeah. So as much as you say exactly what I think you think. There's probably still some censoring in there.
There is. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Twitter is wild, wild west. Like, there's no real rules or anything. All right? Now, everybody, welcome back to another episode of What's Offensive Weekly. This is Scott and my good buddy,
Jeff.
So this time, we have a couple things we're going to talk about. But right now, Jeff, you were in prison of sorts.
Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot we were going to talk about
You were in prison of sorts, and while on vacation, nonetheless.
Yeah.
But it was Facebook prison, is that right?
Yes, it was
Facebook
prison.
And Mark Zuckerberg was the warden.
That son of a bitch. Yes, he was the warden. Yes, and I felt like Tim Robbins in Shawshank. I'm trying to tunnel my way out with the whole, with the
now,
poster.
what was your length of time that you had? We'll get to your offense in a second. What was your length of time you had to serve there?
24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah, and I could not post or comment or like anything. I could still see everything and I could scroll through it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't interact in any way. I couldn't use Messenger. I couldn't, nothing.
Really?
Yes.
What was your offense, Jeff? What did you do?
Well, I belonged.
You belonged
to a group.
What was the name of the group?
It was called F Sensitivity. Don't post shit. That's what it's called. Okay, whatever. But it has, I don't know, tons of people on there. Okay.
So again, the whole idea, just from the name, is we're not trying to be sensitive here.
No, absolutely not. This was like an absolute no holds barred.
Say anything.
Say anything. I mean, there's racist stuff on there. There's just anything that you could, the most depraved sexual type of memes, everything.
And that whole group is still up and running.
Yeah, it's still up and running without me.
So you somehow go into this group.
Yeah, it's a secret. This is the thing. First, it's a secret group. Like, you have to be invited to it. You couldn't even find it or anything. You have to be like, someone has to invite you into the group. Okay, so it's like a secret group. It's not. Gosh. Yeah, it's.
Did that make you nervous even joining it?
No, God, no.
Okay.
I mean, there's tons of different groups on on Facebook. Some are public, half private, totally private, fake, secret, whatever. And so there's I don't know. I guess I was in rare form. This is when I came back from vacation, like right when I came back, and I got into I only say this because I wonder if this plays into it a little bit, because I got into a couple altercations, I guess you'd say, but not like physical, but verbal altercations on there with some people, and it got pretty heated where the guy, I do my best to hide pictures so nobody can see who I am, who my family is, nothing, because I don't want anybody to, and so this guy. I posted a pic because I looked at, we were going back and forth and it was, pretty heated and everything. And then so there was this picture of him dressed up as some fucking Pokemon character or some bullshit. I don't know. Pikachu. Yeah. Whatever. Anyway. So, and I'm like, I just posted a picture of him dressed as that. And I go, I used your thing. I said, I just consider the source. This is the guy who's telling me this, saying this shit about me or whatever, and he's there looking like a boob in in this outfit and everything. So this guy finds a picture of my daughter, on my page somehow, some way, okay, and he writes, "I'd fuck her." And I'm like, oh my God, like I wanted to jump through my daughter's 13.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to jump through the computer. So I played it cool, and I said, and then I started ripping on him for being a pedophile, and then, and then he said this and that, and then eventually it just got deleted.
And this is all in that private group.
Yeah. It's like on a thread on a comment, on a comment, somebody said, And so the only reason I bring this up, I think that this played into it somehow. I think that somehow this guy might have reported it or me or something like that. But he deleted the whole thing because he blocked. That was the one where he blocked me. Another guy deleted one that I got into it with, but he blocked me. So I looked at it from another account that I have, and so I could still see it on there and everything. But okay.
You're making a note.
I'm making a note there.
Yeah.
Okay. So then about this, and then so the thing that I got blocked or that I got in Facebook jail for was there's a video of these Asian people, and they are eating live animals. Okay, where it was literally like this, like a table here, and there's a fish on the table, and it was moving, and it was like halfway flapping, and it had the guts, like had it cut open and was eating it straight out of that. Okay. And then they're eating these squids that were still alive. Now I've seen these, there's this thing where you can take dead squids and they can pour some sort of sauce on it, and it makes them move because it interacts with their
nerves,
muscles or nerves or whatever.
But it's not really alive.
But it's not really alive. It just looks like it is or whatever. But these were alive. Okay. And they were eating this stuff. Okay. It's I could eat dog shit over something that's alive. Mm-hmm. There's just something to me that's like my Achilles heel. Like when somebody like seeing people eat something that's alive, or even swallowing goldfish, it just totally unnerves me. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, and I'd imagine most people it does.
Yeah.
I commented. I said, now. I didn't write this to everybody because people were asking what it was, but it can, I understand, like when you type something, it can come across as different than, the way you mean it or whatever.
True.
Okay.
Very
the
true.
context and the inflection in your voice or whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean it to come out like racist or anything, but I said, fucking Asians will eat anything.
So how do you deliver that where it doesn't sound?
Okay. Let me fucking Asians will eat anything. That's like, to me, that's not like racist. That's just like an exclamatory thing. Like, holy shit, those Asians will just eat anything. And it was all Asian people eating this stuff. Uh-huh. What am I supposed to say? Humans will eat anything. No, they won't. Asians love eating this shit. I don't know what it is. I've always seen these videos of these people eating this stuff. I didn't say these fucking gooks will eat anything. These slant eyes will eat anything. You know, whatever. I'm not. It's Asians. I literally typed Asians. And now, mind you, this group has everything. I mean, like,
yes, it's called F sensitivity.
Yeah, it's anything goes, no holds barred. And so, and I tried to get, I got a message that I was logged out of Facebook on my phone. And I was like, wow, that's weird. So then I looked on the computer, and it logged me out on there as well. And I'm like, this was probably 20 minutes after I made that thing. And so then I had to go through like a
counseling
session, I guess you could say. That's good. Yeah. Where, you go,
sensitivity training.
Yeah. They're like, well, you need to read the rules of conduct on Facebook and assure that this won't happen again. And, or whatever, all of this stuff. And so, and it said you had your accounts suspended for the next 24 hours. You can't post whatever because of what you wrote here. And then it had a screen grab of it quoted me, fucking Asians will eat anything. And I'm like, this is like literally one of the least offensive things I've ever written on Facebook. And I get thrown in jail for this.
For this?
It absolutely blew my mind. Totally blew my mind. Yeah. And it had to be something with those other assholes that it was the same group and they must have reported me for something or something. I don't know.
Because otherwise I'd have to believe that they're somehow monitoring everything.
I fully believe that they are
that.
monitoring it.
No.
Yeah, not Facebook.
No.
Yes, there may be other sites.
What do you mean scraping all of our personal info?
Yeah,
no.
exactly. Well, I had a friend who she would post pictures of her babies, and they were bare butts. Okay, and the babies, they're baby pictures, whatever. Sure. And she kept getting them taken down. Like Facebook would delete them. And she swore that she thought it was somebody reporting her.
Yeah.
And and it was fairly quickly.
Okay.
When of posting these things. I've definitely come to the conclusion that there's scanning software that they look for bare butts or breasts or whatever, and they will then if you dispute it and you say, look, this is just a baby picture, then usually they'll be like, okay. But it flabbergasts me that this technology exists where they can do that. They can scan for certain words, they can scan for any of that stuff. So when you're typing, they've done that. Where we have a group. My wife and I are friends with two other couples. We're like the Scooby Gang. Mike and Stacy and Dan and Jenny, and we posted something before, and we have a group on Messenger. Where we just message each other. And there was Dan posted a picture. I forget, this was like a year or two ago, but
in Messenger.
And it got taken down.
So
in Messenger. And it was just us 6. So there's no chance anybody reported it. Zero chance.
Right. So
they are reading your
well,
message.
This is freaking me out a little bit, because on a post that I did earlier about this high school reunion I'm going to, the question, which we'll talk about at some point in time, was about the pictures I had on my wall. And so people started sending me people started sending me their posters. And like, this is one. It's in the chat.
Okay.
And I kept looking, and I'm like, why is it like this? And those of you can't see it right now, but
it's the picture, Samantha Fox picture.
It's a Samantha Fox picture, and there is, and two of those. Look at this one. So this one is sent earlier, and there's a lot of cleavage, but there's nothing nude about it.
But that's the same thing. Like, I've had other times where that happened where it's faded.
Yeah.
And you can't really see it.
Can you see that when you look at this?
Well, let me look at it right now and see.
So those of you, while he's looking, it basically, exactly as he said, it looks like it's kind of faded or clouded. And so there's a picture of Samantha Fox, and if I click on it, it gives me an option to unhide or to delete. So it's like it's immediately hidden, which made me wonder if anybody else could see it.
I can see it.
Does it look grayed out or like hidden?
But I don't see. You showed that other one with the bar?
Yeah.
Where's that?
So this one here, it should be right underneath that one. If you scroll down a little farther.
That is not there.
Do you see where I typed in, oh my?
Yep, it's not there.
Okay, so this
now that pisses me off because I want to see boobs.
Well, it's her, and I presume in this picture that, I'm going to unhide it for a moment. Yeah, see, the white bar is still over her. Now, do you see it now? If you refresh it, I've unhid it. But that's nuts that...
I'm glad that Mark Zuckerberg is looking out for our...
Your story is even crazier. I'm going to hide that again.
Yes, I see it.
Now you see it.
Yes.
See, now I hid it. I'm going to hide it again. I don't want you guys seeing that.
Well, her boobs are blacked out, or whited out, actually. Why does it have to be white, not black?
I don't know. Yeah. So, well, that's very interesting. What did you learn from this little experience, Jeff?
I learned that Mark Zuckerberg is an asshole, and not to. You know what I've learned? You know what I started doing?
What?
When I do something that might be even vaguely borderline.
Yeah.
What I'll do is, like, if I ever if I ever feel the need to type fucking Asians again.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna type f.ucking a.juns. So that the software
won't catch it.
Most likely won't catch it, or put more spaces in there or something.
Your racism will not be deterred by Mark Zuckerberg.
It will not. It will not.
Yeah.
I'm fighting a hard stance.
Is that what you're thinking? Jew.
Yeah.
You're not going to stop me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Burn you in an oven.
So, and no part of you are saying, maybe I shouldn't post that. You're thinking, all right, I now have to change the way I post it.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
I hear you. Well, this episode was not to be about this. But we started talking about Twitter and how I told Jeff that ultimately Twitter is just wild, wild west. You can pretty much say anything you want on there.
But the problem with Twitter, and I may look at getting onto it now more, but before my problem is that sometimes I can be kind of long-winded, and it was only like 130 characters or whatever.
There's plenty of room now. I think it's like 240 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of room. And if nothing else, you can actually start adding. Donald Trump does it all the time.
Oh,
where it'll be like 3 different. He'll just keep writing, and he just continues to add a new post.
Oh, okay.
So it can, you can
okay.
write the book that you've always dreamt of dreaming.
Wow.
Of writing, I should say. So this.
Can I have the what's off weekly Twitter account?
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be sweet.
On second thought.
Yeah, maybe
on
not.
second thought, no.
Yeah, I'll try something.
You have the Facebook page.
Yeah, right.
I'll handle the Twitter.
Okay.
So the things we're going to talk about in this episode is not about Facebook. It's not about that. But actually what we're going to talk about is a couple things. So a really perceptive, listener who's really paying attention to details of the show noted that in an earlier episode, I had referenced to Jeff, who, Jeff, by the way, is a huge fan of the comic book storyteller. Was he an artist as well, or just the storyteller?
Just a storyteller. However, people always, say, "Oh, he's not an artist," but I got a great story. I'm going to tell you a story right off the bat from me.
Stan Lee is who we're talking about,
yeah,
so you'll know. Sorry,
Stan the man.
Stan the man. So tell me your Stan Lee.
When I went to the Chicago Comic-Con in 1997, 98, both. And I can't remember which one it was. I think it was 98. I got in early because I had a early pass. And I went right to the Marvel booth. And right there, before it opened at 9:30, was Stan Lee just standing there.
By himself.
There was like 2 people around him.
Okay. But they weren't engaging.
But I mean, they were like, a couple people got stuff signed or whatever, and there was no big crowd or anything. Okay, just a tiny little thing or whatever.
Which I would imagine is unheard of.
It was unheard. Absolutely, yes. I mean, eventually later on in the day, I mean, they had corrals of people waiting to meet him, and it was free then, whereas now it's like $100 to get an autograph.
So okay, go ahead.
And it's totally free, but he was standing there, and I said, my whole goal today is just to meet Stan. Yeah. That was my whole goal. I had already met him in 96 in Pittsburgh. Okay. But I'm like, this is my goal now. I had specific things I wanted to get signed. I had 4 things I wanted to get signed by him. Okay. So I said, I saw him standing there. I'm like, oh my God, Stan, can I get you to sign a couple things? He's like, well, sure. And he does this whole thing. He's if nobody's ever met him, I mean, not so much anymore, but he's part of the reason Stan is so great is he's just a very energetic grandpa type of guy, and he's just like, yes, hey, all right, true believer and Excelsior and get out there and in all the comics, back in the day, and he would, sometimes he'd write the intros or, and say the stuff. And when I would like watch Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and he would always be there. That was his voice, giving the intros and everything. Hello, true believers, and another exciting episode of Amazing Spider-Man. So let's see what Spidey gets into this week. And he loves it so much. And regardless of writing the thousands of books that he did, he's just, his enthusiasm for the medium is just so heartwarming. It's awesome, And it's so sad because now it's, he can't see and hear good and everything. And so he said he doesn't read comics anymore and everything. But so anyway, so I get there and he's there and I go, Stan, I go, oh my God, I'm just a huge fan. I go, first off, I wanted to show you this. And I showed him my Spider-Man tattoo on my calf. I have a huge Spider-Man tattoo hanging upside down on my calf. And he goes, oh, is that permanent? I go, yeah, sure is. He's like, oh boy, you're in trouble.
So it's just like your grandfather.
It is. It's just like your grandfather.
Wait till your mother finds out.
Yeah, exactly. He's so happy and just happy to be there, and he plays into it so well. He's just the quintessential happy old guy. It is just awesome. And so I had him sign like my 4 things, and I go, Stan, I go, if I have tons of sketches from different artists and everything of Spider-Man. Would I be able to get a sketch from you? And have you draw something? He goes, I'm not an artist. I go, yeah, but you're Stan the man. And he goes, he dead serious. He looks me right in the eye. He goes, you're damn right. And I gave him this comic book backing board.
Yeah.
Okay. Like a white board.
Yeah.
And he starts drawing Spidey on it. And I mean, it looks like a 3-year-old drew it.
Sure.
Okay. And he signs it, another lousy pick, Stan Lee. Another lousy pick from Stan Lee. And I have that. If my house was on fire, okay, and I could save one thing, it's that. Okay. And I have that up on my wall. And that was, I love that. I love that story, everything about it. It was just so awesome to have that. And he just goes, looks at me and goes, "You're damn right." Oh my God, I love that.
I like that. I love that. My son and I, we went and saw Black Panther this past week, and Stan shows up there.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I love that about those movies, that he just always shows up. I don't know how he worked that in, but he's the chairman emeritus of Marvel, which is basically he's just an ambassador, and he loves talking about Marvel. He gets paid $1 million a year from Marvel for the rest of his life, no questions asked, and he gets to do these all these cameos, and everything. And it's funny because they before he wasn't going to do the one for Guardians of the Galaxy, because he goes, "I don't even know who they are," because he didn't create Guardians of the Galaxy. He created most of the other ones that he was, or had a deep hand in most of the other movies that have been made. But Guardians came out like more in the 70s, like more a little bit later, and he didn't have a hand in it, but he ended up doing it. And they said that he still has like 4 or 5 already. They've already done them. Like even if he died right now, they're still in the can. This was my question. Like, it's going to be a void because
no, absolutely, it is going to be a void, because I mean,
they're not going to stop making
20 movies or whatever so far, or whatever, however many it is, and I saw that before. We need to appreciate him, because one time in one of these movies, there's not going to be a cameo, but instead at the end it's going to say, "In memory to Stan Lee," and it's sad. It's sad, but he's 95. I mean, holy shit.
I'll tell you what they're going to do. If he stays
CGI.
Yes. If he stays out of trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what we're
Listen, you got to end the race well.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
This guy, and that's what we're going to talk about
absolutely
in a second.
True believer.
He's got to finish the race well. If he does, like Princess Leia, he'll continue to be in there. And maybe they'll make him even look younger and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah. Sure.
So the comment I'm making about him finishing the race well is that apparently, I'm looking here, around 3 months ago, Stan Lee was accused of sexual misconduct by a nursing company. And so this is what it reads. Marvel mastermind Stan Lee is accused of sexual misconduct by several women who work for a nursing company he employed. Lee is strongly denying the accusations. Now, you guys can look this up on the internet and investigate it for yourself. But what I kind of understood was, as I read it, and this is not to, and I know it's going to probably be received as excusing or lightening it, is that it just sounds like dirty old men.
Sure. Dirty old white guys.
Yeah, maybe.
You gotta interject the racism.
But I don't think that's true.
No, you have to.
I think that men in general.
No. Because if you say men in general, you're including Asians and blacks and everything, and that's being racist. You have to say just white men.
Oh, but I don't. Then I guess I'm being racist, because I think it's a man thing that they get old. Like my grandfather was that dirty old guy. I can remember my sister. She was in high school. She was probably a sophomore at the time, and she brings over, her friend was over at the house when my grandfather came to town.
Okay.
And I can't remember if he tapped her on the butt or something, but it's just like,
I mean, I know this middle-aged white woman who was grabbing guys' ankles. So,
well,
I mean,
it wouldn't have been a problem unless she had grabbed his crotch or something like that. That would have been an issue. Not for me. Go right ahead, girl. You go. It's Justin Timberlake. Are you kidding me?
Sure.
Cry me a river.
Right. Oh,
see what I did
bringing
there?
Sexy back.
Yeah, I'm bringing
sexy ankles back.
So my issue here, these are things I'm concerned. I'm not making these allegations against these women. I'm not trying to make a victim out to be the bad guy here. Mm-hmm. But this is what we've talked about in the past, and that is when people come out and continue to make false allegations, it then makes you start wondering, well, when is it a real allegation?
Sure.
Because these are women who are employed apparently by Stan Lee. They know clearly that this man is very, very, very well off. And again, I'm not saying he didn't do it. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that there are people out there that I think are opportunists that would look at that guy and go, all right, how can I get some of this money?
No, absolutely. There was a whole article on one of the comic book sites about just like the last days of Stan Lee and how people are just picking him apart like a vulture. I mean, the people that surround him that are, in charge of his money and his bodyguards, and it's a wreck. It's an absolute wreck what is going on, and it's sad because his daughter is he has one child, Joanne. And she's 67, and she's still with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, the whole bit and everything. I mean, she looks like she's in her 40s. Actually,
She's probably had work done.
maybe. But Stan's wife was very pretty too, even towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, she just died 6 months, a year ago, or however it was, and everything. Yeah, and so his life is kind of spiraling out of control. I mean, he's 95. He's he lives alone. He has a lot of money. He's losing his mind. He's losing his hearing. His vision is very bad.
Right.
He said he doesn't read comics anymore. He can't see anything basically anymore. And if you really look at his I'm big into the collecting and all of that stuff. So if you look at his signature now, I mean it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
You can tell a huge difference from the ones like say that I had from 20 years ago.
Yep.
And now you can tell it's somebody who can't see very well. And he can't, and it's sad because, again, he's 95 and they're still trotting him out at comic shows,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's $100 for his autograph just to walk through the line, and you literally get 5 seconds with him. Mm-hmm. That's it, and it's sad what it's become, but there was this whole, I also follow Todd McFarlane on Facebook, and I don't know if you know who Todd McFarlane is, but so if people out there don't, he was the quintessential Spider-Man artist. He came in around issue 298 of Amazing, which would have been like late 80s, and he completely redefined the character. He was very much he put him in weird poses and anatomically wise and everything, and he drew the webbing very crazy and cool and just all over the place. Mm-hmm. And he was very much about bringing out the spider in Spider-Man rather than the man.
Okay.
So he's considered one of the greatest comic book artists ever. And eventually he left Marvel with 6 other guys and formed Image Comics. And so that they formed,
I did not know that.
Yes.
That's who's behind The Walking Dead.
Well,
meaning that's the Image is Walking Dead.
Yes,
that's their
absolutely.
brand, I
Yes.
guess what you say.
Yes.
Okay, I did not know that.
So it was him, Eric Larson, who was another Spider-Man artist who branched off with them. Jim Lee, Jim Valentino, Will Sportasio, and Rob Liefeld, who Rob Liefeld created Cable. People might not know them. It's from Wolverine, X-Men, and he also created Deadpool.
Oh, okay.
Rob Liefeld did. And so they basically were all upset about not getting their dues from, and creating all these characters. Todd McFarlane created Venom, which was, huge.
Wow.
And so Todd all these guys wanted to start their own books. And get paid for it and keep their rights and the whole bit. So Todd started Spawn, and Eric Larson started Savage Dragon, and the other guys started all their books, and none of which still exist today, basically. But Spawn and Savage Dragon are still going on.
All right.
So for 20, 25 years, however long it is, which is insane. Eric Larson is the CEO, I believe, still of. Or one of the guys in charge still of Image, and he writes and draws and inks and letters his own books. Every month, Savage Dragon. So then, but Robert Kirkman is actually the guy in charge of all of Image right now, and which is Walking Dead guy.
Shut up.
Yeah, he's like the CEO or
of
whoever
Image.
Yes, the creative consultant, whoever.
Yeah.
He calls the shots basically at Image.
Well,
Todd McFarlane still does. He doesn't even do Spawn. I think he co-writes it maybe.
But he's doing that thing.
But he does. Yeah.
What are these called?
These are called toys. That's what kids play with.
That was a Lego set.
He's pointing at a Winnebago for the Walking Dead, which is Todd McFarlane then branched off into doing,
what are those called? Figurines or
action figures. He spawned, no pun intended, into doing all of those, and they were a huge hit. He also did the starting lineup figures and everything. Where,
oh, really?
Were those the starting
baseball
lineup?
players?
He did. I don't think there was a starting lineup, but he did the McFarlane Toys version of all of these the sports figures, and that was insanely huge. Too got him a lot of money, got him enough money to buy a fucking baseball for $3 million from whoever that was. He set the record for buying that one or the big home run breaking ball of
like Mark McGwire.
Yeah, I want to say Mark McGwire maybe or something. I don't know, look it up.
Yeah.
Look that up. And so Todd is very influential with all of this stuff. He still wants to make another Spawn movie. The Spawn cartoon that was on HBO is just awesome. Just super awesome. And so he posted that he visited him the other day.
So
and Todd went over
Stan
to
Lee.
Stan, and he said that they talked for about an hour, and everybody always says, well, how is he?
Yeah.
And he says he said he's a 95-year-old man. That's what he looks like, a 95-year-old man. And he said that they talked about the old days and Stan starting at Marvel and all of that stuff. At the time, it was timely, and he started when he was 18, or maybe 16, as an intern, or doing whatever and everything. And then it parlayed itself into what it is, and mostly due to Stan, but a lot to the other artists and everything. People don't realize that stuff, but Stan didn't just create all the stuff on his own. Jack Kirby created the X-Men, really, and Jack Kirby is just as influential and as important as Stan. He created the Black Panther. He created Silver Surfer. He created all the look of a lot of that stuff. But there was Steve Ditko and all these other guys. He co-created Spider-Man. It was just the magical time of all these artists coming together with Stan. But so Todd said that they talked about a lot of that stuff. They didn't talk about his personal life and everything. What was going on or anything like that. He didn't talk anything like that. But he said at the end, Stan said that, thanks for coming over, Todd. It's the best medicine I could have had. And so, which was that's great, and it's sad because it's ending the race doesn't seem to be boding very well for him, because he's just there's something to be said for living a long, fruitful life. And that's great if you can, keep it up and everything to a degree, I mean, it doesn't seem like he has control of anything in his life anymore.
What is troubling me right now is that it seems that the simple allegation is a guilty verdict.
Yeah.
And a person's reputation is immediately just destroyed because of just simply the allegation. Now, I'm not trying to give anybody a free pass, but when I think about Stan Lee and this incident, and I don't know all the details because this thing could be legitimate, real deal Holyfield, or it may be total just searching for money. But I also think about that woman that was alleging that George H. Bush was sexually assaulting her because during a picture he was like tapping her on the butt or something. And there's this part of me that says, I don't know, man. I remember as a kid looking at this picture of, it was Mr. T. It was a People magazine, and it was all about Mr. T, who I loved at the time. He's a great guy. But Mr. T was standing there, and it gave his whole story and everything. And then on one of the closing pages, it was him taking a picture with these two women. and one of the women have their hand right on his butt.
Okay.
And People magazine wasn't saying, look at the kind of sexual harassment that he's enduring. I'm sure that probably happened to him quite a bit. And I'm not saying that we all have to be like Mr. T now and just accept stuff like this. But I think that oftentimes we're seeing opportunists come out, and what they might overlook if somebody else did it. Like, it goes back to that Saturday Night Live sketch when Tom Brady says something like, "Hey baby, you look good." "Oh, thank you." When the creepy guy says, "Hey baby, you look good." That's sexual harassment.
Right, sure.
Listen, we're picking and choosing, and I'm not happy about that, because I think that people like Stan Lee or President George H. Bush or any of these men, as they get older, I guess it comes back to me like, well, what's the intent there, and how far are we talking? I'm not talking about are they actually reaching under your dress and not to be too
grabbing
grotesque.
Them by the pussy.
Yeah, no, they're not. I'm not. That is completely unacceptable. But you can't tell me that patting them on the back or on the butt like that we're talking about. I don't know.
No, I get it, but I mean, people, the people in these professions need to. Let me rephrase it. People in these professions should know that's a definite possibility.
Yeah, that these people are out here, and you do the wrong thing, and they're gonna use it against you.
Yeah,
they need to be smarter.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, it's just, and again, like you said, not excusing any of that behavior, but when you don't have all your wherewithal, about you, when you get that old and everything, it's almost like people who are under, anesthesia or whatever, that you don't know what you're doing. You don't have your wits about you. And
there's this other thought that goes through my head, is that for some people, this is what I've been doing my entire life. Not excusing it, but I've been doing this kind of thing and no one ever said anything about it. And then all of a sudden now, one day, so again, and I know that this almost sounds like we got to let them get away with it. I know that it probably sounds that way, but all I'm trying to say is I'm trying to consider both sides here. I'm trying to consider both sides. And for George H. Bush or for Stan Lee, maybe they're making these comments that they've been making their entire lives. And then it just so happens that right now in society, you do that and all hell is going to break loose.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't think that every time you touch somebody that it can always be marked as sexual harassment or sexual assault.
Right, but it is funny kind of with the timing with all of this stuff with Stan, because it started happening as soon as his wife died. And and so then it's like, well,
you're saying he's backed up.
No,
he's got to get the poison.
He might be, maybe getting some of those human embryos out of him, but you got to look at the opportunity too. Like you were saying, I mean, you look at that and you go, well, okay, a young nurse might look at him and go, well, he's got a lot of money and his wife's not around. So there's nobody to tell him that it's, tell me that it's wrong or that I'm
because he's
lying
newly
or
single
whatever.
now.
Exactly. He's newly single. He doesn't have his wits about him. He's like
single and ready to mingle.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's her face? That chick, that young chick that married that super old guy.
The dude from
Amber Nicole Smith, I want to say, or something.
Oh, Anna Nicole Smith.
Anna Nicole Smith.
Okay,
Nicole Smith. Yeah, Amber. Anna Nicole Smith. It's kind of like that. I mean, people are gonna, except she did it the other way, where she was like nice to the guy and was like, oh, I'm just gonna fuck you a couple times and get billions of dollars, whereas now, it's like, oh, these chicks probably think, wow, I just, maybe I can sue him for the rights to Spider-Man or something. I don't know.
And so I guess here's what I would love to say in closing. I'm open to listening to another perspective on this. And that's the thing, I think that Jeff and I haven't really said this on this podcast so far, and I think we probably should, is that I don't think, I can only speak for myself. I'm not trying to speak as the final authority on any of these matters.
I am.
That I probably agree with. But I'm not.
No, I hear you.
We come in here and we're just kind of talking about it, and we're offering a perspective, but we don't believe that we are the end all be of what is racism, what isn't, what is sexism, what isn't. We're just talking. And I know that there are some people who probably agree with our perspective, And I'm sure there's plenty of people who really disagree with it, and that's fine. What I think is most important is that I believe that Jeff and I are both open to a dialogue about it. And just because you have a different perspective does not mean that no matter how emotional you are about a topic, and no matter how solid you believe your argument is, you just need to understand that does not necessarily mean that it's going to convince me or Jeff. And I think that's an important thing, because as we've learned in previous weeks,
what have we learned?
We've learned that I've learned that I need to be a little more thoughtful about the way we cover things. So,
you fucking pussy.
No, this was supposed to end right now. This podcast was supposed to end right now, but we're going to go ahead and extend this.
Oh man, special extended edition.
Bonus issue.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about it, or do you want to take a quick break?
No, I'm fine.
All right. So, as some of you know, a few weeks ago, and it was probably a month ago that we recorded it. We recorded an issue or an episode about race. We ended up breaking it into two 30-minute-ish sections. And when it was being released, I did what I normally do, and I went onto Facebook and I posted that we were going to be issuing one on racism. And a friend of mine, who I've been friends with for many, many years, commented on there something to the effect of, and Jeff, you might be able to get it exactly, but it said basically something like two white guys talking about race. Classic.
Yes.
And I know that it made you mad, or I know that you didn't like it. And I think that what I didn't like about it was what I felt like it was saying. And what I felt like it was saying was, I'm not allowed to talk about this. I'm not allowed, because I'm white, think clearly about what I want to say. I'm either not allowed to speak on this topic, or because I'm white, I am entirely uneducated. And therefore, I can add nothing to this comment. Like, the only way you can ever talk about race is if you are black, or if you are some group that has been directly discriminated against. That's how I felt. Now, that may not have been her or anyone else's who commented on that post. That may not have been their perspective, but that was how I received it that day. And for me, what I walked out of that whole thread with was, if we are going to talk about certain topics, I do think, like we were going to try to do with this issue of domestic abuse, that I think that it would be a good idea to go ahead and to get another person's perspective in here. The idea being, you and I don't think are ever opposed to somebody else's perspective, and I think we're both open to that dialogue. It's just that on that episode, it wasn't really planned out, and we couldn't have just found a black person to come in here and talk, and it was what it was. But now that I've thought that through, I know for me going forward, like this issue with domestic abuse, I think I would like to on this podcast, I would like to invite those kind of other people or perspectives in here so we can have that conversation.
Well, what drives me crazy about that is we're constantly told that we're supposed to open up a dialogue, have a conversation. We need to talk about race. We need to talk about what's going on. We need to talk about this. And then two guys who happen to be white just go, hey, we have a podcast and we're going to talk about this. Well, you can't talk about that. What are you doing? Why are you talking about that? No, we just the black people need to talk about it. They're the only ones who can actually talk about it. Well, no. And that and the fact that she didn't even listen to the episode. She could totally agree with everything that we said. You don't know. We're just talking about, we say that because we say that we're talking about race, then all of a sudden we're not qualified to talk about that. Saying that is racist in and of itself. It's racist. Okay. You're making an assumption about what it is because of the color of my skin.
That was, I think, the thing. I felt as if I was saying I was not allowed or I was unable. Like you're not allowed to talk about it, or you're actually incapable, because you're white, you're incapable of talking about it. And I reject both of those. I'm not of the belief that you have to have directly experienced something to be able to speak about it. I'm also not of the opinion that just because you've experienced something makes you an expert in the case.
Sure.
Okay,
Like
David Hogg. David Hogg. I'm
Sure.
sorry. I'm sorry that you went through that, and I that's an emotional topic for me. It becomes more emotional as time goes on because I want to rip him apart.
Right.
I really do want to rip him apart.
And it's still unclear whether he actually went through it.
He was supposedly in another building, so the shooter wasn't in his building.
But then he also said, as soon as he found out about it, he got on his bike and rode to the school. I watched both interviews. So
here,
that's a whole other.
This is a thought that has recently come to my mind. Would you like a turkey sub or anything?
That's a thought that came to your mind.
Deanna sent me that.
No, thank you. Okay. Thank you, though.
This is the thought that has come to my mind recently. And Jeff, this is where I could probably learn from you. This is where I'm very, very different from you, or at least I perceive that I'm different from you. I really do care how people view me. And I really try to measure my words so as not to be misunderstood or to be taken the wrong way. So I'm saying that before I make this statement. But this is exactly how I feel sometimes. I feel as if there has been some type of meeting that, and this is being facetious, all right? I'm not being literal. But I feel sometimes as if there's been some type of a meeting, and I, as a white man, am not in that meeting. And so what has happened at this meeting is it has been determined what is now considered racist, what is now considered sexist. And I'm never informed of what those things are. I'm never allowed to have any input or...
You'll be informed when you do it.
When you do it.
Yeah.
And all I can say is that's how I feel. So just accept that as me saying, not as an authority, it's just how I feel sometimes, because there are people that I'm great friends with that may be black, that are black. Not maybe, they are black. I have friends that...
You don't know. You don't know what they identify as.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
I identify as black.
Okay.
So you're friends with me.
Okay. So I have friends that are women. And sometimes I feel as if now I'm having to second guess. All the kind of jokes I've been making with you for years
Right.
are now all of a sudden looked at slanted. Like, I have not changed. I've not changed. My love for you, my value, the way I view you as a friend, has not changed. So why all of a sudden am I now being looked at? And that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like all of a sudden now I feel like there's this fear on my part. Like, I really have to watch what I say because I wouldn't want anything to be misconstrued and it's very frustrating to me. And I don't know. That's just how I've been feeling as of late. Thoughts?
I don't want to say anything because I'll be racist.
Well, the conclusion I've come to is there are people out there that, as we've talked about before, that will go ahead and they run it through their own racist filter. And if you say these words or you say whatever, boom, automatically, no questions asked, it is racist.
The thing that drives me nuts the most just is that by like we're going to use this example,
all right,
of someone, a black person telling me that because I'm white, because of the color of my skin, it validates or negates my opinion. And that's racist. You're being racist, but people don't realize when, they want it to be it's all about them. It's just, well, you don't know what it's like to be a black person. You don't know what it's like. Well, that's true. And you don't know what it's like to be a white person either. And you don't know what it's like to be male. I can't go around touching people's ankles anytime I want, like, some of these women do, So, I saw this thing where they're like, you don't realize what it's like to be a woman. And it gives this whole laundry list of, no pun intended, laundry list, but this whole list of of things that women do that because they're afraid or because the precautions that they have to take or whatever the case may be. They're like, you don't know what it's like to walk into a parking garage and have to worry about,
Yeah.
You know, or being raped or whatever. You're right. I don't have to worry about being raped. I have to worry about being killed. Okay. I go to concerts all the time that are downtown Cleveland, East 55th, the Agora, and all this stuff. Wherever I've been to all these different places, very seedy places. Yes, I'm very conscious of the fact that I could get killed. I'm very conscious of the fact that that not only that I have to watch out for myself and not get killed, and I always walk with my hands in my pockets with my keys sticking out.
Yeah.
So that I have pull it and I can do that. And then if I'm with my wife, I have to worry about protecting her too. Mm-hmm. So people don't realize, well, it's just man, it's a man's world. You just get to do whatever. No, it's not like that. I have, there's other concerns that I have too, that you don't have, that people don't see, you know, people, it's very easy to bash on guys and white guys in particular, all that stuff. We're known as the bumbling idiots. We're the Al Bundys, the Homer Simpsons, all of these guys. And that's how we're seen, as big, dumb oafs who just go to work, who, bust our backs at work or whatever the case, maybe work in a gravel pit like Fred Flintstone. And we come home and we just sit there and watch TV and read a newspaper. Mm-hmm. And that's our whole life. While the women get the credit for cleaning the house and taking care of the kids and doing all this stuff, which is, I trust me, I get it. You know what I mean? I say both sides, whatever. But I'm just saying we fall into a stereotype as well. And that's what people don't realize, you know, that again, well, you can't comment on anything because you're white and you're just dumber because you're a male. You can't cook because you're a male. You can't, do any of this stuff. The only thing you're good for is bringing home a paycheck.
Right.
Well, okay.
Well,
so there's stereotypes on all sides, and to that's what in their quest to be holier than thou and try to show people, point out racism, they're being racist themselves.
Yeah.
And misandry.
Okay.
Misandric.
Yeah. And while I feel like there's different ways that you can be racist. You can be explicitly racist, and then I think there's like this unintentional. I would probably consider that more of an unintentional type of racism.
Okay, I don't think it's on the forefront of their mind, thinking that to bash somebody like that, but it's still there.
Yeah, it does imply that like I'm unable. That for some reason, because I'm white, I'm unable, and I'd reject that. I think you'd have a point if I said I'm the foremost authority on what it's like to be a black person and to be prejudiced. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Of course I don't.
Right.
But I do feel like I have something to say in this conversation. And I would welcome any input on that. I'm not looking to argue. I'm really not looking to argue, but I'm all for a meaningful, respectful conversation. I would hope that somebody would understand me in that, like I long for that type of conversation. I don't want to be wrong thinking I'm right. All right. I don't want to be that person. If my perspective is wrong, I long to correct it. And if you can help me correct it, great. Just don't think that just because you tell me this thing that you're really passionate about, or that in your mind is the end all be all argument, I may not be as moved by that argument as you. And it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or you're right or vice versa. It just means that we can be different. So,
but the thing that drives me crazy, and especially like in that thread, the person who said something, they implied, they imply that, and I've talked with other people like this, like at work, they imply that because I'm white, I had some great upbringing, and I don't know what it's like to be poor, and I don't know what it's like to not have food. Well, but I do. There's we went through tough times, and that's fine. I mean, it made me who I am, and that's great. But to imply that, and it seemed as if, it was funny because, asking about specific factors in this person's life and everything, and it was always, well, my parents went through something, and this other person did, and I grew up in a white neighborhood. Imagine what that's like. Well, okay. Yeah, I understand that, but it didn't seem to be that tragically bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I understand that there's that racism aspect and everything. However, when you're the only one of your race in a huge, part, but the joke has always been like in Brunswick that there's one black person
You're right.
in every grade. That's all that they're allowed, you know. And I think now it's like 2, you know. But when we were growing up,
action.
Right, exactly. But when we were growing up, there were a handful of black people in our school, and honestly, they were treated very well. They were some of the more popular people.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes I understand it depends on the city and the circumstance and all that stuff, but sometimes that can work for you, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there is I
not so much in Alabama, but in some places
absolutely.
it can work for you.
I refrain from using the term like, say, privilege, like black privilege, or say gay privilege or whatever. But there are people who are gay or black that are very popular in school.
And you think it's because they are gay or black?
I personally, I think that's a factor. Like, people are drawn to that, especially now, like social justice warrior type of people. That whole type of mentality is shifting to that, where, you know, you feel sorry for the loner person, or you feel sorry for the person who's gay because it's a smaller percentage, so they get more attention. They get more. It's like kind of, God, I don't mean this to come out like this, but it's like the wounded puppy. You know, if you see 2 puppies and one has a broken leg, you're going to be like, oh,
yeah.
You know, or you see a bunch of puppies and one, you know, you want to put more attention to where you think it needs to be. And that's, and we're told as a society anymore that black people are just downtrodden, that they're just, or gay people are discriminated against. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, sure, it exists. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying as a society, we're pushed towards that.
I'll tell you one thing. I remember reading this book by Bernard Goldberg, a Jew.
Yeah, definite Jew. For sure.
It was called Bias.
Okay.
And if you've never read it, I mean, I don't know I know you like reading comics, but it's a really interesting book. It was about.
I know you like reading comics.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay.
But it is a book that he wrote because he used to work for CBS News with Dan Rather.
Okay. The father of fake news.
Yeah. Well, the story goes that he had ultimately written an op-ed for like the New York Times about the bias that was in the media. Bernard Goldberg, by the way, is a Democrat. Okay. But he writes in there that, the media is definitely biased. And he'd written this op-ed and he mentioned Dan Rather. And the way that he said that Dan was so biased, the way you could tell is because if you ever asked Dan about it, he's like, I'm just reporting the truth. So he's pointing to the fact that the bias is so ingrained in him that he cannot even see it.
Sure.
So one of the things that they talked in there about was about prejudice. And when the true story that they told in here was they said, all right, we want you as this news crew to go down. There's this prison, and they're forcing the inmates to go out and do work like on the road, and it's outrageous. So we need you guys to go down there and videotape that and come back. All right, Roger. They go down, they videotape, they come back, they play the video. It's all black inmates. And they're like, no. That's not going to do. You need to go back down there and get video of white inmates. First off, they're like, this is what it was. Okay, this wasn't special. This wasn't special effects.
Right.
This isn't CGI.
Right.
This is what we dealt with. So he started talking about that bias, and then he also started talking about how the Democrats. This is what he was saying. The Democrats, in a certain sense, when they continue to feel sorry and look at them like blacks or gays as victims, they're keeping them down.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And that right there is a sense of discrimination.
Yes.
It's not apparently apparent, but it is keeping them down. That you keep them in that victim role, and I think that we need to turn that around. Anyway,
I agree.
Bernard Goldberg Bias. I highly recommend it. It'll change. And this is why, as you remember, and you may have seen in my post, the video I did this past week, is that like Fox News, if anybody tells you Fox News is not biased, that person is out of touch with reality.
I agree.
If they say
Absolutely.
if they say CNN is not, they're out of touch too.
Absolutely.
Every single one of them have their slant, and they overlook certain stories, and they really promote other stories that help with their narrative. And and I don't want to be that guy. I know I am slanted right. I know I'm a conservative at heart, but I always want to strive to be objective and to listen to other perspectives.
Well, the problem is anymore, I mean, especially anymore with like the internet and all that stuff is it if you just look, let me see if I can find something here.
All right.
Okay. Because I'm going to show you what it should be versus there's usually always some sort of Huffington Post.
While you're looking for that, I do want to read one Twitter message that I received about our episodes on race.
Okay.
Hey, Scott, just finished listening to your 2 podcasts where you and Jeff talked about racism. Thought you guys made some interesting points. Appreciated the realness from you both. Love the humor. Thanks for being willing to address this important issue. Take care.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
The humor was me, not you.
Signed, Roy Moore. I'm kidding.
Wow, that was terrible.
No. Signed, Donald Trump. Huge. Did you find anything?
But no, I didn't. But I'm going to save it for next time, because when I see it, you can tell it just by the headline of something. You know, like
where it's slanted.
Like it'll be Trump fucked up again. You know, or Trump really messed up this time.
President offends prime minister.
Or whatever. Yeah. But it literally is like that. Some of those articles are like that. Like, he really did it this time. What Trump messed up with this? Mm-hmm. And no, back in the day, it would be more of this is what happened. You know.
Yeah.
And there has always been bias. Don't get me wrong, but it's extremely bad anymore. Where it's just. You know, if Trump signs a thing, and trust me, it happened with Obama too. Okay, mm-hmm. So I'm not just saying it, but if Trump signs something about, killing an EPA policy or something like that, Trump kills 10,000 fish.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Trump signs bill legalizing killing fish, or I don't know, whatever it'll be, but it's the way you word things and all that stuff, and it's made to get clicks. That's what it's all about anymore, is just being able to get somebody to click on a headline. Chris
Wallace, whose father was Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes. Mm-hmm. So Chris Wallace is a Fox News correspondent. Mm-hmm. But he strikes me as one of the more moderate on that channel.
Okay.
Fox News has Shepard Smith, who is as liberal as they come. All right, he's done nothing but bash Trump ever since he got in office.
Okay,
and he's admitted this. And then you have Sean Hannity, who is all up in Trump's butt. Okay,
right. He can do no wrong.
He can do no wrong. Right. All right, but Chris Wallace says the other day that he made this comment where he said, at this point in time, it's unprecedented that the president has been so attacking of the media. But he said then, I will, and I'm paraphrasing, but I will acknowledge that there is absolutely bias in the mainstream media, that there's, in the headlines all over the place, it's just clearly slanted. So when I read that, I thought to myself, okay, part 2, I couldn't agree with more. And this, I think, is what you're talking about a moment ago, that it does not even appear as if there is even an attempt to hide it, which makes me go once again back to Bernard Goldberg's thing, and that is they don't believe it's biased. They believe they're just telling the truth.
Right.
Okay? So it's not like this intentional thing. They've just lost all objectivity. But the first point he makes about it's unprecedented that we have this, well, couple things that are unprecedented. One, we have a guy in office who's not a politician. He's never going to be George Bush. He's never just going to let the media just say anything about him, mock him, strategery. Mm-hmm. He's not going to stand for that. He's going to come back and fight you. The media is not used to that. No other president has done that. It doesn't mean that what he's doing is wrong. It's just that he's done something in a way you don't like. The second thing is the media today in 2018 is dramatically different than it was when Bill Clinton was in office.
Absolutely. Bill Clinton didn't have access to Twitter. George Bush might have, but I mean, he was too dumb to figure it out. And then, I mean, you had Obama, who just was all he ever did with social media was just, I love you, Michelle, happy anniversary, that type of stuff or whatever. And Trump's whole thing is, well, hey, I have this tool and I'm able to communicate with people directly, which is, when you think about it, that is fantastical. I mean, to think about where we came from and to tell if you told the forefathers, hey, there was going to be a tool in the future where the president could type out a sentence and everybody could get it
at any moment.
Right then, like within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
They'd be like, holy shit, that is crazy.
They're not waiting for the news corps to show up.
No,
to press
it's not
record.
A day later or 2 days later or anything like that. It is instantaneous.
Yeah.
That's unprecedented as well.
Yeah. So for me, when I hear those two statements, I'm in full agreement with number two. That, the mainstream media is definitely biased. Mm-hmm. And Fox is part of that. They're biased, but so are the others. And the others dramatically outweigh Fox. There's probably 5 major news outlets compared to Fox. But the first part, I think, is what I think people are putting too much stock in. Like, oh, this is unprecedented. Well, of course it's unprecedented. Yeah. You're being an idiot if you don't think it's unprecedented. Right. But you just think, you only want to look at one thing. It's him. Right. It's unprecedented that you would do that. No. You have to, once again, I think, look at the context, and that will allow you to better understand is what he's doing. It is what he is doing so wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, he lies a lot.
Yes.
Okay. So that is, I think he...
Well, may I?
Yeah.
I believe when now, you have people that hate him so much that they want to do things like this. When he says, it was the biggest crowd ever, that's a lie. He is a liar. Okay, listen. There is a way that we can exaggerate. Let me tell you a lie. Here's a lie. Ready? I never had sexual relations with that woman. That is a lie. Right. Now, is he lying when he says it was the biggest crowd ever? Yes. But do I equate them in the same way? And I'm not even talking about, one he said in front of Congress and one he just said to the news reporters. The difference here is they hate him so much that they want to blow everything into this most evil thing it can possibly be. He tells lies. Every single president, every single person does that. So let's not... So... He lies. He lies, and he makes extreme allegations, and he gives stupid responses on Twitter. I'm with you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I hear you. I forget where I was going with that.
I know.
I don't even know.
I have that effect on people.
Yeah, you certainly do. So, but he does. This is. I get it, and I agree. I mean, with the whole. People want to bring up this whole Stormy Daniels thing, and say, well, he's lying about that and all that stuff. Okay, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Who knows? Okay, but this is the fact. He wasn't president when he did it. That's the difference between him and Bill Clinton.
But their point is not about that. The point that I've heard continually is, and it's a bogus one.
Okay.
The point they're going to try to make is because $130,000 was paid to her as hush money. They're saying that was paid out of his campaign finances. That's really the issue they're coming to. But they're going to have to stop that. That's not going to go very far because John Edwards, he was paying
the crossing over guy.
No,
who was a psychic.
No, that was Jonathan Edwards. This was John Edwards. Okay. Who was the Democratic? He was going to be the nominee, and he was paying far more for a much longer time. His not his wife, but this other woman, and her baby. He was paying for that for a long time. Nothing ever. Now he didn't get the nomination, but he didn't face any legal consequences. And do not take any of what I'm saying here as me trying to defend Donald Trump. Right. I'm only trying to say, if you hate him, that's fine, but hate him for the right thing.
Sure.
And please and don't try to blur the lines.
Right.
Okay.
Lines.
Yeah. He gives you plenty of stuff to hate him about. This is an immoral man. He is a guy who is I don't find him to be blatantly racist. I find him to be a blatant jerk to everyone, every gender, race, whatever.
I agree.
You cross him and he's going to say whatever. Anyway, all of that to say, Jeff and I are open to conversation. We
are.
I'm open to dialogue. So if anybody wants to ever in the future maybe come on and give their perspective, I'm not promising you're going to be on here. I'm not promising that, but we will consider.
We do take bribes.
We will consider allowing you on the show to voice an opinion.
But I mean, real quick, back to that whole thing. People are pissed off and saying that $130,000 came from his campaign money.
Yeah.
Whatever. Did they realize this is Trump? He's like a billionaire. And
Correct.
I mean, I understand. And then everybody's like, well, he's not as rich as you think he is. And I was like, hey, maybe. Okay, fine. Let's say he's not.
I think he's doing okay.
He's still doing okay. Even if he had $10 million, I mean, only, I think he could afford $130,000 to pay off this chick.
I'd like to put on the record, he definitely had sex with her. I believe her. I don't believe everything she said. Okay. Like when she says, because I watched the 60-minute interview, like when she says, I walked out of the bathroom, like, oh, well, I guess this is happening. Okay.
Oh my God.
This harkens back to when, I don't know if you remember when Mike Tyson was on trial for rape.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Here was the defense. This was the defense's, this is the way they argued it. Listen, it's Mike frickin' Tyson. All right. This guy's a freaking animal.
Right.
All right.
Sure.
When you walked into that room, you knew exactly what you were in for. That's how they defended Mike Tyson. It didn't work, but that's the way they took it. And there's a certain sense, I fully get that.
Yeah.
If you're going into a bedroom or into the hotel room of Mike Tyson, I understand why you're there.
Sure.
Stormy Daniels, I'm not trying to besmirch her character or anything, but she is a grown woman. And I don't know for a fact, but I would presume this isn't probably the first man who she's walked into his hotel room with.
Well, seeing as how she's a porn star.
Yeah. So
I'm going on record as saying that Melania Trump is 10 times hotter than Stormy Daniels.
She is, and I won't be surprised. I was going to say I won't be surprised if she divorces him. I won't be surprised. But I think there's a part of me also thinks that she won't. Yeah. Meaning, like, her payday, maybe she'd gone to him and said, Donald, this is over. I don't know what her accent would sound like, but that was like that was Swedish. I think that you just did. Yeah.
I'm back.
I can see him going, listen, I'll pay you $500 million if you please don't divorce me.
I'll pay you.
But I don't think it'd make any difference. Yeah. Donald Trump is right when he said, I could shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and they're still going to vote for me. That's true. I am not one of those people.
You know what? Yeah.
You are or you are not?
Yeah, I am.
Well,
I am one of those people. If it came down to him and Hillary.
That's the point.
That's the point.
That's the context.
That's the context.
That's the context. That's a word for the day.
Yes.
Hashtag context.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yes. If it came down to just that and he pulled a gun on somebody and just
I'm
shot
like, well,
him,
who did he shoot?
Yeah.
Was it a baby?
Was it a dog? Because then, no way.
All right. So, all right, everybody. We've gone way too long. This was bonus material here. We hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully it wasn't too offensive. So, everybody, toughen your skin up.
This is What's Offensive Weekly.
Yo, yo, yo.